you spend any time on YouTube, you've probably seen videos by PragerU. One reason for this is because they've spent millions of dollars on Facebook, YouTube, and Google ads over the last 10 years. One topic that PragerU has spent a lot of time on is climate change. They've made over 20 videos on the topics of energy and the environment. But what very few people know is that right before making these videos, PragerU received millions of dollars from two fossil fuel billionaires. Many of the experts in their videos, like this guy, and this guy,
but Texas is the energy state,
have received money from fossil fuel companies or work for think tanks that have received money from fossil fuel companies. Unsurprisingly, most of their videos contain lies about climate change, including the crazy claim that just 2% of climate scientists believe that humans are causing global warming. In this video, we'll be looking at how PragerU used fossil fuel money to build a climate disinformation empire that reached 100 million people on YouTube and Facebook over the last 10 years.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to my home. I'm Dennis Prager. This is the Fireside Chat. There's the fireside. Here's the chat.
Dennis Prager and Alan Estrin started PragerU as a nonprofit in 2009. From the beginning, the two men had an ambitious goal: change the minds of millions of Americans. In 2012, Estrin stumbled upon what would become a key insight for PragerU.
I thought if we make these great videos, people will find it. Every video will go viral. And then it hit me. We were violating a basic Hollywood rule. And the basic Hollywood rule is you need to spend as much on marketing as you do on production.
But at this time, PragerU didn't have much money to spend on ads. In 2011, the nonprofit brought in $400,000 in revenue. In 2012, they brought in $500,000. The next year was quite different. In 2013, PragerU received a $6.25 million grant commitment from two billionaires in Texas.
Billionaire brothers Dan and Ferris Wilks from Texas.
The duo hit pay dirt during the shale boom when they sold their Texas company in 2011 for $3.5 billion.
The two mega donors, Dan and Ferris Wilks, started Fractech, a fossil fuel company that sold for $3.5 billion in 2011. Like many fossil fuel billionaires, the Wilks brothers don't think that we should do anything about the problem of climate change. Ferris Wilks has said, if God wants the polar ice caps to remain, then he will leave them there. Shortly after making their $6.25 million grant commitment, two members of the Wilks family joined the PragerU board. This gave the family power over many of the nonprofit's decisions. Not long after that, in 2015, PragerU started making its first videos about climate change and energy. Take a look at this clip from one of the first videos in that series.
We note that there are many reasons why the climate changes: the sun, clouds, oceans, the orbital variations of the Earth, as well as a myriad of other inputs. None of these is fully understood, and there is no evidence that CO2 emissions are the dominant factor.
All right, so that is definitely not true. Virtually every climate scientist in the world agrees that humans are putting CO2 into the atmosphere, and that is causing climate change. But PragerU disputes this claim too. Take a look at this clip from a video titled, "Do 97% of climate scientists really agree?"
But the vast majority of papers don't say that human beings are the main cause of recent warming. In fact, one analysis showed that less than 2% of papers actually said that. Again, this is definitely not true. But let's take a look at the source for this PragerU video. It comes from a 400-word blog post published in 2014. But wait for it, it gets better. The blog post reads, "Mark Boehner, a commenter on my previous post on global warming and on David Freeman's post, has sifted through the data behind John Cook's statement that 97% of climate scientists who stated a position believe that humans are the main cause of global warming." So, what did this commenter find? That just 1.6% of climate scientists agree that humans are the main cause of climate change. I'll let you decide whether you want to trust one commenter on the internet or thousands of scientists around the world who've published peer-reviewed papers on climate change. I watched all of PragerU's videos on climate change and energy for this reporting, and all of them contain similar lies. In another video, PragerU claims that fossil fuels are, quote, the greenest energy. Once again, they use some interesting data to back up this claim. Take a look at this graph. More fossil fuel, better sanitation. Okay, what about air quality? Here's a graph of the air pollution trends in the United States over the last half century, based on data from the Environmental Protection Agency. Note the dramatic downward trend in emissions, even though we use more fossil fuel than ever.
Okay, so that first claim, that's just a classic logical fallacy. Clearly they don't understand the difference between correlation and causation. But the second one, this is just straight propaganda. The reason that air pollution fell so much over the last 4 decades was because the government regulated fossil fuel companies, which is exactly what this video is trying to prevent. So, to sum everything up so far, PragerU received millions of dollars from a couple fossil fuel billionaires. They used that money to make dozens of videos about climate change and energy, and all of those videos are packed with lies and misleading stats. But how did those videos reach so many people? After all, some of those videos have over 10 million views. Enter the final characters in our story.
But in our DNA, we are a company that builds technology to connect people.
All of this work is in service of a timeless mission: to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful.
If you recall, in 2012, PragerU's key insight was that you have to spend as much promoting a video as you do making it. In Facebook, Google, and YouTube ads, PragerU found a perfect partner. With just a few clicks and a few $1,000s, PragerU could use these platforms to reach millions of people. But PragerU didn't just spend a couple $1,000s. They spent tens of millions of dollars over the last 10 years promoting their videos. According to Facebook's ad library, PragerU spent about $20 million advertising on the platform between 2018 and 2022. Last year alone, PragerU spent $4.5 million advertising with Google and its subsidiary YouTube. That money helped them get their videos in front of a lot of people. PragerU's videos on climate change and energy have been viewed more than 108 million times. Now you might be wondering, why would these companies allow PragerU to run ads with climate misinformation? One reason is that they made a lot of money running those ads. There just wasn't that big of an incentive to stop them. But eventually, activists pressured Google and Facebook to change their policies. In October 2021, Google announced it would prohibit ads for content that contradicts well-established scientific consensus around the existence and causes of climate change. And so that's how this story ends. A big tech company stands up to a climate denier. The fossil fuel companies are finally defeated, and humanity comes together to solve one of the biggest problems of our time. Yeah, unfortunately, that's not how this story ends. Recently, I looked to see if PragerU was still promoting its climate denial videos. I found multiple ads like this one that reads, "What is climate change? What causes global warming?" That ad directs people to one of the videos I mentioned earlier that claims that there's no scientific evidence that humans cause climate change. I also found this ad and this one. All of them take users to the same video. According to PragerU's data, that video has been watched 13.9 million times. And so that is where this story ends. Climate misinformation is still rampant on platforms like Google and Facebook. And these companies don't just allow it, they profit from it. Now, when other journalists have criticized PragerU in the past, they've responded the same way every time. They say any attempt to limit the spread of their videos is an attack on free speech. We're all entitled to our opinions. But there's a difference between opinions and facts. You and I can disagree about whether or not to do something about climate change. We can disagree about the merits of any given policy, like the Green New Deal. These are legitimate debates that anyone should have in a democracy. But this isn't the type of discourse that you'll find in PragerU's videos. Instead, you'll find a propaganda machine funded by fossil fuel billionaires. All right, that's it for now. If you want to look at any of the sources for this video, I've got a link below that you can check those out. I promise I haven't cited any 400-word blog posts like PragerU. And if you want to support any of my future reporting, there's a link for that below too. And finally, let me know your thoughts on PragerU in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you.